You're listening to Trek FM.
Hello and welcome to From There to Here, Trek FM's 50th Anniversary Rewatch of Star Trek, in which we look back at all 729 episodes from beginning to end. I'm Lee Hutchison, and today I'm joined by Amy Nelson. How are you, Amy?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Lee.
This is your debut on From There to Here, I believe?
Yes, it is. I'm very excited to be talking Star Trek with you.
Well, we've got an exciting bunch of episodes this week to look at, so we might as well fire in with the first one, Tuvix. Now, this episode seems to split the fan base. What's your opinion on Tuvix?
I remember watching this when it first aired, and I really enjoyed the episode, and I guess I'll just put it out there. I wanted Tuvix to stay. Is that the split?
Really? Well, that sounds like quite an interesting debate we're going to be having then. I also remember watching this for the first time. I got it on VHS, and I always remembered liking this episode, thinking it was pretty good. And then watching this episode back the other day, I was like, I actually don't like this episode. For me, from my point of the argument, like, I have no problem with Tuvix being split apart at the end. I think the decision Janeway makes is the correct decision, but I feel the drama is kind of faked by the aspect that the crew are so accepting of Tuvix straight away that they almost forget about Neelix and Tuvix, that they accept him so readily that it almost creates this fake drama that they're so attached to Tuvix that they can't bear the thought that he's going to be torn apart again.
Yeah, I can see that. I really thought that Janeway's decision, albeit a very difficult one, I think in the end was the right choice. But I still wanted Tuvix because he was so loved.
What is it you loved so much about Tuvix?
I think that he made the best of Tuvok and the best of Neelix. I'm not a big Neelix fan, and so that was fine to have him go away. But for Tuvok, I think it made him obviously more human, and we are always looking to see how we can become more human.
Yeah, you make some really good points there. That's why I quite liked it when I looked back on my memories of it initially, where I thought it was a really good combination between these two characters, that these two polar opposites thrown together in a character. I don't quite get how this flower brought them together like that and created a uniform that is like a Starfleet uniform mashed up with Neelix's costume department. It was a pretty weird mix, but I think the actor who played Tuvix was excellent in the role. I really think he nailed the differences between Tuvok and Neelix so well.
Yeah, he did such a good job. And I was wondering, was Tuvix supposed to look old? Because it seemed like he was so much older than either Tuvok or Neelix.
I never really thought of it like that. Maybe that was part of the flower. Well, any questions or plot holes will just be put down to this magical space flower.
Yeah, one of the favorite quotes that I had when Janeway was like, at what point did he become an individual and not a transporter accident? I mean, you're questioning when is life, and I thought that was very poignant of her to recognize that he was an individual, or was it just a transporter accident?
So what do you think then? Is it a transporter accident, or is he two separate people? Is he a human? You know, where do you fall in this debate?
I think he definitely is an individual, and he's sentient, as we know. He knows who he is. He knows his whereabouts, and he definitely has the capability to voice his opinion and say that he does not want to be destroyed.
For me, I can already picture this being a debate on the Babel conference. For me, he's a transporter accident.
Oh.
Yes, he is a human being, but he is a product of two officers that have been affected by this transporter accident via this flower, and that the whole point should always be to separate these two people back to reality. Now, I understand that may never happen, but the whole episode I really felt should have been about that separation. So yeah, for me it is a transporter accident.
I see. Well, we will have to agree to disagree.
Oh yeah. So when that, like, I always think that is a fantastic scene at the end, and it really does show Janeway's captain skills when she makes that decision, and you can see it splitting the crew. The doctor, some of the bridge crew really seem distraught by this decision. I think that's definitely, I've said it before, that I'm not the biggest fan of Janeway as a captain. But I think in this episode in particular, she really showed, a command decision. She was ruthless. The acting from Kate Mulgrew, as she's just steely-eyed, determined to get this done, was one of the finest moments in season 2.
I agree with you there. On Metatrex recently talked about single consciousness versus double or multiple consciousness, and they were talking more about the Dax Trill. But I think that definitely could apply here, because you have, Tuvix consciousness plus Neelix's, and so how does that really play out in Tuvix, And when they do get separated, does Tuvix and Neelix, do they remember being Tuvix? I don't know.
Well, thanks to Voyager and its episodic nature, it'll never be brought up again or referred to ever again. Things like that frustrate you. I'd always like to see a bit of a follow-on from this episode, and there's just nothing that ever happens out of it. Like, there was one question I wanted to ask you, that when I watched this, I was kind of trying to view it through a different eye, and I wondered, when we're seeing Tuvix making these advances on Kes, we're thinking, it's because of Neelix. I thought it might be an interesting almost idea, is that some of that coming from actually the Tuvok side, that he's now in a way that he can express some of these emotions, is perhaps some of that relationship advances towards Neelix, to Kes, coming actually from the Tuvok side.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I hadn't thought of that about that, but we know Vulcans do experience deep feelings, and so to see that come because of Neelix's feelings for Kes definitely shows his range of emotions there.
Yeah, it was just one of those ones. I thought, was watching it for the first time in a long time, and I thought, I wonder if there's an element of that coming from Tuvok. But yeah, maybe it's just revisiting an episode I'd worn quite well when I was watching a video. I was trying to find something new in it anyway.
Yeah.
So if you got anything else you want to say about Tuvix, or will we move on to our next episode?
No, I really did enjoy the episode, and I really did enjoy Tuvix as a character.
Excellent. Well, on to our next episode, To the Death. The Deep Space Nine is attacked by the Dominion, and the Defiant returns through the wormhole to hunt them down, but they in fact find that it's a rogue element of the Jem'Hadar that have found an Iconian gateway, and are now looking to use that to extend their influence. Now, what did you think of To the Death?
I really liked this episode. I think there's a lot of philosophy to talk about it, because I like are you going to work with your enemy? Are you going to always keep them your enemy? And I like that we get to know the Jem'Hadar a little bit better. We learn, what was it? That they don't have females, and the white, and, that they don't live very long. So I do like learning about the Jem'Hadar a little bit more in this episode.
Yeah, we certainly learn a lot about them. That scene where he's talking with Dax about no women, no sex is a classic scene, and especially Terry Farrell's kind of response to it is just all the more sweeter. That for me personally, this is an episode I love. I always associate it with when I was a kid. When this came out in video, it was rated 15, which is the equivalent of an American R. And apart from The Wrath of Khan, you never got that on any of the Star Trek videos at the time. So, like, being a young kid, it was like, oh my god, why is this a 15? I need to see this. Is it sex, violence, destruction? It was so appealing. So, this is an episode, as a Weyoun fan, this is like total gold for me. I love seeing Weyoun for the first time here. He really is such a greasy car salesman, smooth as you like. He is just so wonderfully irritating. So I'm so happy to see his entrance into the Deep Space Nine game.
Yes, he definitely plays both sides very well.
Oh yeah, like he's always just telling everyone just kind of what they want to hear, just like pulling them all along the little path a little bit. But yeah, he's excellent. So unfortunately, he dies at the end of the episode. I wonder if we'll ever see him again. But yeah, it's a total classic to see him join the cast. For me, I would rewatch this one earlier today, and it's still just as great as I remember it. That I love the interaction between the two crews, and I was reading up in the Deep Space Nine companion about that they wanted to do this kind of episode for a while, like showing the badass side of the Jem'Hadar that we'd seen in the episodes like The Abandoned and Hippocratic Oath. These sides that not all the Jem'Hadar were these warrior types. But now we get to see the warrior types in this episode, that they're willing to kill people they're working alongside. They're willing to kill their own people. They really are bloody animals that are kept under control really by the White.
Yeah, and definitely see that when Worf and the first officer, I forget his name, and
Mataclan?
Yeah, they get into it, and then the first comes over and snaps his neck and expects Cisco to do the same thing to Worf, and you're like, oh, wait a minute here, that hold on, he'll just be confined to quarters.
Yeah, Starfleet, I think that's their way of maybe just trying to start to get the ground sorted before the Dominion War, just get everyone killed for the smallest breach of indiscipline, and then there'll be an easy invasion force in a few months' time. Like, when I was watching it today, one thing that really stuck out for me was when I was a kid, I always loved the violent aspect of this episode. It was something I really didn't get to see much of in Star Trek at the time. So seeing these phasers and weapons and everything, it was really appealing. But it seems over so quickly when I watch it now. It seems only like a few minutes long, and that's the action scene's over. Like it's all the suspense building. And I honestly thought as a kid it was like 10 minutes long. It only feels like a few minutes.
Well, it was a full, 45 minutes, so.
Oh, yeah. I think there was quite a few, cut scenes here and there, so, yeah, it was definitely a classics episode for me, and one that certainly starts to put things into play for the coming episodes. That I know there's a theory that when Weyoun touches Odo in the back, that's him putting the infection in him to bring him back to the Great Link in a few episodes' time, so was something I'd never noticed before, but a bit of trivia that was brought to my attention, and it's I've now retconned that into my viewing of this episode.
So I wanted to ask you, Weyoun refers to him as the Fallen One, so they still think Odo is this part of the Dominion and this god that needs to be worshipped, even though Odo tells them, I am not with them. I mean, why do they still live to serve the founders and follow Odo?
I suppose it's that, as much as he is a fallen one, it's built into their genetics, I would imagine, and that even though they're looking at him as someone that has fallen far from the tree, he is still in fact a god to be worshipped. That even a fallen god is still a god to someone. That I know in Christianity, for example, that Lucifer is a fallen god and people will still worship him. That I think there's definitely an element of the genetics in play there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
So have you got, and obviously one other thing that I love about this episode is the callback to a classic Next Generation episode with the Gateway. That was a really cool touch, and as opposed to just being some sort of Dominion mission that they're off on, that the fact that it ties it into some Next Generation lore is a lovely touch. Yeah,
it is, and again, Worf just does it perfectly. Yeah.
Well, that's everything that we've got for these two episodes today. Amy, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, you can find me on the Babel Conference, Trek FM's dedicated Facebook group.
And you can find me at Lee_Nostromo on Twitter, and you can also find me on the Babel Conference. And let us know what you think of Tuvix and To the Death. So until tomorrow, that's all from us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.